Hello everyone, this is TheNelston. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm here to talk a little bit about how to make class builds. Now this is something that is frequently asked and I think doesn't get addressed as often as it probably should. So I'm going to be here today to talk about how to do just that. So some of you may have this thing called the item guide, and this is accessible to everybody that has WinTils installed. All you do is you go to your quest book, click on item guide, and you'll see all the items in the game. Now, of course, there are some search functions here, namely, you can sort by level order, you can deselect the items that you're not looking for. But because I want to make sure that this build video is kind of accessible to everybody, regardless of whether or not they have WinTils, I'm not going to be using this in-game item guide. Instead, we're going to be using another resource called WynnData. Now, in my opinion, this is even better than sliced bread, although maybe not as good as apple pie, because this thing can catalog all of the items in the game for you, and you can sort by even more parameters. So as opposed to just sorting by alphabetical order, level order, or anything else like that, you could sort by all of those things, none of those things, or even some other criteria, like for example, spell damage, mana regen, mana steal, health regen, and so on and so forth. So I'll give you guys an example. Let's say we are looking for a weapon that we want to use. Now I want to make a level 65 build for my archer because I want to solo corrupt decrepit sewers. So the first thing we're going to do is set the level maximum. There's no level minimum, I don't really care. We're just going to go with level maximum for right now. Then we can set the category to be any number of different categories. So we can either choose ingredients, weapons, armors, accessories, or armors and accessories for kind of like the larger macro categories. And then of course, under each of those, you have like the smaller categories like, helmet, chestplate, leggings, boots, and daggers, wands, etc. So we're going to go with a bow. And then I'm going to go ahead and click search to sort by the combat level. And yeah, we're given all the stuff and we can see all of the stats on each of the items. We can see where they drop from, how to obtain them if you click more details. And overall, very, very useful. Now I've gone ahead and picked out a bow I already want to use ahead of time, and that is the bow Clairvoyant. So if we want more details about how to get this item, all we have to do is click on more details. You'll see there's like a little bit of lore text. If it has lore text, it'll tell you where to get these items from, and it'll give you some other information. So yeah, this is how you find your items. And of course, you can repeat this process for armor, accessories, and later on, if you get into the soul-crushing slavery known as professions, you can also use this database to look up ingredients. So then you guys can go ahead and pick out some armors and accessories. And my favorite way of doing this is to first sort by the specific armor type that I'm looking for example, helmet. And then I can order by whatever criteria I want. So I could do like, loot bonus, maybe I could do mana regen, water damage percentage. You can go crazy with this and play around and see what you like. You might notice that this tool has 4 different order by parameters. Now what this means is pretty simple. First, it'll go through and organize all the items by the most spell damage percentage to the least spell damage percentage, including negative. Then it's going to order by whatever you give it next. So for example, we could go with, require intelligence. And then we can order by, say, water damage percentage. And then finally, we can order by something like, let's do walk speed. Why not? So what this will do is it'll go through, organize everything by spell damage percentage, then by the requirements on intelligence, then the water damage percentage, and then finally the walk speed. So yeah, it is a pretty complex tool. If we click search, I don't actually think there's any items in the... Oh, there is an item in the game like this. That's fun. Well, there you go. You get exactly what you're looking for. So at this point, you're probably wondering, okay, Nelson, well, I've picked out a couple different items, but scattered items a build does not make. So what do I do at this point? Well, the next thing you want to do is go over to the second tool that we're going to be using for today, known as WynnBuilder. So this is pretty simple. What you do is you just input the items that you want to use, and then you can change the skill points and add powders, and then you'll finally see all the stats displayed on the side. So I'm gonna go ahead, throw together a sample build, and then we'll meet back and I'll explain how to read this page. Alright, I'm back and I got this pretty lovely build that I threw together in about 5-10 minutes for the purposes of demonstration. So let's go ahead and walk you guys through just exactly what we're looking at here. These slots, as it says, are basically for powders. So the way you do powders is you simply input the first letter of the element that you're trying to go for, and then follow it with the tier number that you're trying to put in. So for example, if I'm trying to put in 2 tier 4 water powders onto my clairvoyance, I would do W4, W4. Generally, I don't recommend putting powders on your armor until you're at least a little bit higher level. So let's look at the stats. This section right here, so on the right, is where you'll see your damage. So up top, you can read it, it's the melee stats, and then this is your first, second, third, and fourth spells, as well as with the corresponding damages. And then of course the last box is for poison. Right here, up at the top, you'll see there's HP, there's mana regen, like you get it, right? It's really not that hard. Anybody that's kind of past 2nd grade English should be able to understand this. And if you didn't, well, unfortunately, I don't really have good news for you. So this build is nice in that it has pretty cheap costs, it has great mana regen, has decent HP regen, and it has positive lifesteal. Now keep in mind, this is not mandatory for some builds. You should definitely play whatever suits your fancy. In my kind of experience, I like using builds that don't require me to chug health pots because I'm a really greedy person and I hate having to spend money on things that I absolutely do not have to spend money on. Finally, just a couple of other small notes. Right here is where you'll see the skill point distribution. Once you hit update items, sometimes you'll have some skill points left over, and you can just go ahead, throw these into different categories. So I just went with intelligence and defense. You can also, if you want to increase damage, hit optimize strength. So if we do that, you'll see it'll distribute the skill points accordingly to make sure that you have the maximum DPS. You can also click on edit IDs to put in custom values, just in case you're testing for something like, say, an item without perfect rolls, because shocker, you're not always going to get perfect rolls. So maybe, I don't know, I got minus 16% off of the maximum for all of my different pieces of equipment, and I only have 30% water damage. If I hit update stats, you'll see that it updates my damage and shows me what I'd actually be doing. Finally, you can use this section down here to check your buff damage as well as your powder damage. So if, I don't know, for whatever reason you're an archer and you have access to a totem, you can see how much damage you do in that situation. You can check how much damage more realistically you do in an ally totem. Maybe there's War Scream as well. And then you can have, well, since you have tier 4 water powders, you could have Curse 4. And then you can see the damage that you do. So yeah, this is a great way of seeing how much damage you can actually do under specific circumstances in order to make sure that you're satisfied with what you're building. And once you're done with what you have and you feel comfortable, and maybe you want to share it with friends or save it for later, you can either click on copy short to save just the link, or you can click on copy for sharing, which will copy both the link as well as all the items so that other people can see exactly what items you used without having to click on your link. Finally, I'm going to end things off with 2 big kind of pointers. The first one is that you should always try to build within your budget. Now this is kind of a no-duh moment, obviously, but you'd be surprised how many people spend 10 LE on something at level 20, only to realize it is completely worthless later down the line, and then they regret getting it. Unless you know what you're doing and you're over, I would say level 70 to 80, don't spend more than 1 to 2 LE on certain items because you're not going to use them past a certain level. There are, of course, exceptions to this rule, as there are with any other rules, but the point here that I'm trying to make is that you shouldn't be blowing your entire bank every time you level up 10 levels. Another thing I would definitely encourage you guys to do is to put your build in the class build section and to kind of just get some feedback on it. You don't really know how good a build is if you're new to class building unless you have someone else kind of take a look at it, give you some feedback, and maybe some places to improve things, or maybe they tell you that it's completely fine for your level. Regardless, you should always be striving to get more feedback from community members because while they may seem mean and scary at times, and PS, some of them are, you can get very valuable information about what you need to improve on in the future in order to make a better build. Alright, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comment section below. Leave a like if you liked this video, leave a dislike if you hated it, subscribe for more content like this, and as always, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.